On the cusp of the 20th century, in January 1896, a 50-second documentary film would become something of legend in cinematic history. It featured a moving image of a steam locomotive train pulling into a train station. That film and its American translation would be The Arrival of the Mail Train, a silent film directed by Auguste and Louis Le Maire, brothers cited amongst the earliest filmmakers that contributed to the birth of cinema itself. The film's legend, however, has been rumored to a screening in which its audience, unaccustomed to the moving image itself, had mass panicked and prompted the moviegoers to scream and escape to the back of the screening room. While that popular rumor has persisted for well over a century, it does say something to today's subject: movie theaters. You're listening to Open Here, a podcast produced by PACTV. I'm Dave Antoine. It's been known all too well that the pandemic has upended normal life as we know it. Things we took for granted like travel, concerts, sports games, to dining out or even gathering with your family over the holidays took on an entirely new dimension in ways none of us had anticipated. Speaking as a passionate cinephile, one such casualty as of now has been movie theaters. In 2020, we were to see major studio tentpole films like No Time to Die, Black Widow, and Dune, among them, postponed to the following year, while movie theaters, both major chains and small operations, were forced to close, both due to lack of attendance and lack of product, briefly reviving drive-in movie theaters across the country. As of now, there's been a host of articles, some fairly condescending, I might add, speculating the survival of movie theaters. Now, I want to say that the staff at these theaters work very hard, and it's unfair to not recognize them and their livelihoods in the face of an article seeking eyeballs and clicks. The staff should be appreciated for the late hours they put in on nights and weekends to keep moviegoers entertained. Now, speaking personally as a cinephile, I'm not going to be chicken little about this. It's understandable in the day and age of streaming and home theater technology that it's easy to dismiss movie theaters as being irrelevant. Oh, I have to drive out there? I have to pay an arm and a leg for tickets for me and my family? Oh, great. Now I have to pay for all the concessions too. Oh, I have to deal with people who won't stop talking or texting. Now, I may be biased as a movie buff, but some of my best memories have been at the movies. My earliest memory was watching Gizmo save the day in Gremlins. There I was at the age of 4, watching the beloved character ride a Barbie car as he defeats Stripe in a department store. I was lucky enough to grow up in the 80s when American pop culture had broken through in the mainstream in ways that I was lucky enough to watch first-run screenings of Back to the Future, Batman, Ghostbusters 2, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, among all of them. We all have favorite memories of the theater, from the thundering score of John Williams tuned to the opening crawl in Star Wars, to the fight of good versus evil in The Exorcist, to the arrival of the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. This, however, brings me to more than just pleasant memories, but the inherent value of movie theaters themselves. Memories like that are critical, and movie theaters provide that to moviegoers. Now, to reiterate, I realize streaming is at our disposal whenever and wherever we want, from the convenience of a home theater system to your smartphone. Yes, you can pause the film whenever you'd like to use the bathroom. Yes, you can eat the snacks of your choice without having to overpay for popcorn and soda. You can do all those things from your own home. But no matter what, nothing will beat the sheer feeling of watching Captain America raise the hammer, or watching the Avengers assemble in Avengers Endgame, but also watching Peter O'Toole travel through the desert in Lawrence of Arabia, and 70mm nonetheless, or hearing classic lines for the first time like, "I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Open the pod bay doors, Hal," or "All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up." For me, again likely being biased, movies are best experienced on the big screen, no matter how big or small the story is. Of course, it's not possible to see everything, although Lord knows I'm trying. But it's the pleasure of watching the movie on the big screen. It's the communal experience of watching the Batmobile chase the Joker through the streets of Gotham. It's watching the Transylvanians perform the time warp dance, or Marion Crane's fateful stop at the Bates Motel. Yes, these are movies that can or have been watched on TV, and even more so with streaming. But you can't tell me for a split second that watching it by yourself will match the communal experience of excitement, terror, laughter, and the dozens of other emotions to be had as you sit in a dark room with an audience, to think, to be entertained, to be thrilled, to take a break from the reality of life. But more importantly, going back to the communal experience of moviegoing, movies are a cultural glue that hold us together. How often have we had conversations with coworkers about movies at the water cooler? How often does the topic of movies pop up during conversations on a night out with friends? Going to the movies are for everyone, and it's something that we should not take for granted, like travel or concerts. Director Martin Scorsese wrote a fascinating pair of articles, essentially bookending the height of the pandemic. The first article in 2019 in the New York Times, as the director had to clarify his remarks after controversy over his thoughts on Marvel qualifying as cinema. Now, to be fair, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe and find myself highly entertained by them. But as Scorsese clarified in his article, franchise pictures are overtaking art where worldwide audiovisual entertainment is up against cinema, and it's the financial dominance of the former that in some respects is marginalizing the latter. Enter 2021 for Harper's Magazine called El Maestro, with the beginning of the article as a scene right out of a movie, following a young man in 1959 Manhattan passing by a plethora of movie theaters playing the latest in international cinema. These films, as mentioned by Scorsese, are indeed classics, but they're cinema. And to sum it up, Scorsese relates to how classics of yesterday are devalued to mere content than art form. Scorsese said in this article, "The art of cinema is being systematically devalued, sidelined, demeaned, and reduced to its lowest common denominator, content." Going a step further, regardless of it being Michael Bay or Jean Cocteau, be it worldwide visual entertainment or art house cinema, these movies are worth so much more than algorithm-curated content. Dare I say, when a TV series is dropped all at once on a streaming service, it's binged by myself as the viewer. But truth be told, I remember little of it after. I've yet to encounter lengthier, stimulating conversations with my friends when content such as it is on streaming is dropped all at once. In some respects, I feel the same way about movies that make it to a streaming service. A piece of content that can't be valued in the way a classic film like King Kong or The Dark Knight can be valued. For me personally, not just as a moviegoer, but as a human being, the importance of movie theaters provide an experience way more valuable than sitting on the couch, staring endlessly at our phones, distracted by what was happening on the small screen. We did a lot of that in the past couple of years, watching content on a Saturday night on the many streaming services afforded to us. But regardless of how one may feel, sitting amongst moviegoers as the lights darken and the trailers begin, you're in for a sound and visual treat not unlike a sports event or a concert that I personally feel will never match even the best viewing experience provided by a home entertainment system, nor the distraction of creature comforts. Viewing as such allows me to process the story in a way that I can ruminate on it much more than buttons on a remote control. Just recently, I saw a film called The Worst Person in the World with a friend, and we had a lengthy discussion about its meaning, given we weren't watching it separately, but together at a theater, communally. I had the good fortune recently of watching Dutch Chicago on the big screen, an epic that I could have easily watched that's available on a streamer. But no matter what, it won't take away the experience of a David Lean film, complete with soundtrack interludes before it starts, and when intermission ends as the curtains unveil the screen. Movie theaters are vital to our cultural existence, the one platform in which we could all share in the viewing of a critically acclaimed drama or the latest Hollywood blockbuster. At the risk of sounding ignorant, I don't always go to Broadway Live, concerts live, or sports games because those can be pricey affairs. But to me, they hold just as much cultural relevance as going to the movies. But with access to movie theaters, it allows something perfectly in between. The ability to watch a film on screen with an audience while paying a fraction of the price of a live event. Now, I've heard many people reject movie theaters for all the aforementioned reasons. But I find in my experience that I get not only the opportunity to be entertained, but to be part of the cultural conversation in a way that I can afford without paying expensively for a live event. They bring us together on a level equal to people of all classes and walks of life. There's something to be said about the loss of a discussion about something you saw in a theater versus something you watched at home. Its meaning is lost because everyone has essentially watched the same movie or show, but they didn't concentrate in the way we're able to do that by watching it on the big screen. A movie theater has been invaluable in so many respects that I'll remain a faithful moviegoer because I want that same opportunity to be just as thrilled like so many others when they saw the arrival of a mail train. I'd like to take the time to dedicate this to someone that I was close to, that I lost recently. I've known him for over 20 years, since college. Like me, he was a passionate movie buff and someone I could always count on for not only friendship, but for moral support. Our last movie together at the theater was Big Trouble in Little China. And it's amazing that such a casual get-together now becomes a critical memory. But that memory alone is one that will be with me for the rest of time. I'll borrow a quote from Emily Dickinson, who once quoted in one of her works, "Unable are the love to die, for love is immortality." To go back deeper would be an inside joke that we would quote all the time. You got any gum? Brother Love, you are missed. You've been listening to Open Here, a podcast produced by the local scene of Plymouth area community television. PACTV is a community media provider for the Massachusetts towns of Plymouth, Pembroke, Kingston, and Duxbury. To see more of our content, visit pactv.org/the local scene. I'm Dave Antoine. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi friends, if you like this video by the local scene, share a love and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe.